There's a concept I learned very early in my career, and it was immensely valuable, but the term is weak ties. And so the basic thesis here is that I'm not going to do justice to it, but the basic idea is that okay, everyone knows that having a good network is important, but the question is, where does the value in your network come from? And this is also actually a theme in the, if you really dig into the self-help or the self-development community, it's kind of a similar insight. But the idea is basically that, okay, you have your core network, your core community. In your personal life, it might be your closest family and friends. And these are immensely valuable people in your lives. That's kind of the foundation. But paradoxically, when you really want to level up and expand and grow, it's actually not that core community often that's the key to your success. In some ways, they can actually even be a little bit of an obstacle. Where the value really comes from is your weak ties. It's people a little bit outside of your core area because they're the ones who can see the potential in you. They're the ones who are more comfortable with you changing or growing. They're the ones who will actually know who is the person outside of your network you should meet or connect with. And I think that's an important insight for building the forecasting community, which is to say that what you found, right, is that the core of your community is college students who want to do forecasting, but where did the money and resources come from? It wasn't from those people. It came from
Right.
this random financial firm that you didn't even think about would be an ally. I mean, likewise, I would say in the context of SSG or political gambling, this show would not happen. It would have no value if we didn't have a core group of traders and so forth who came on the show and talked about it. But I would say, insofar as it's been a lead gen just for other opportunities for my consulting firm or whatever else, it hasn't come from like random guys on Predicted. It's come from people a little bit outside of the community who learn about this and kind of opens up new opportunities. So I think that is probably another. Let me try to summarize the lesson here and tell me if I got it. But I think the lesson here is find an area of the community, focus on it, grow it, but recognize that the value you might be creating and the opportunities for growth will be maybe outside of your core community in areas or spaces or networks that may not be totally obvious when you first get started. That was a
Yeah,
little bit clumsy, but I think you got that. Yeah.
yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
that that's right on target. That you might not be aware of the ways that you're creating value for other people, and if you start to think about that more clearly and start to try to really understand the ways that you're providing value to other people, you can do tiny things that provide way more value because you weren't initially optimizing for that sort of value, which, to be clear, can sometimes be dangerous, where you might not want to optimize for creating value for particular groups or whatever. But I think a really good way to get around that sort of initial thing where I can say as much as I want, oh, you might be creating value for people but without knowing. But then the obvious next question is, okay, how do I know where I'm creating value? And I think people way undervalue the extent to which you can literally just ask. You can say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing and you're a cool person or you do this cool thing. How can I make this in such a way that it would be more valuable to you? And I think people in the forecasting community would love to hear that question. I think Austin Chen of Manifold would love to hear that question. I think Pratik Chikuli of Spangled Gamblers would love to hear that question. And I think Salman of Manifest and Optic would love to hear that question. And I think you can just ask that question. I'm considering doing XYZ. How can I make it in such a way that would be more valuable to you?
Yeah, no, that's true. I would say in that vein, check out from Manifest. They've now posted a lot of the talks on YouTube. That is a very consistent theme that we heard. James Gurgett gave a really terrific talk where he talked about just how Manifold got started and how they've executed. And that was a big takeaway that they were just really, really aggressive at getting feedback and asking. And I think that when you look at the success stories in our community, it's a very common story. I think Scott Alexander is a very good example. It just has a terrific ecosystem of comments and engagement. Shane Coplin at Polymarket really cracked the code of building a prediction market on crypto, which a lot of people thought was very hard to do. I again, I think just being really in tune with the community. So yeah, I think that's very important.